Hi everybody, Alex Employer from Expert Forex, and in today's video we're going to be talking about a trader who has made well over $1 million a year for the last 15 years. Now I'm hoping that what you'll see in this video will give you, firstly motivate you to succeed, but also give you some really good ideas to improve or make your Forex trading a total success. Now on your screen you can see a free course. It's Barry Thornton's long candle Forex trading course. This is a video I made about 2 years ago where you can freely go and download this particular course. There are many other courses written by Barry Thornton that are available on our free forum. So please go on down. The link to that download will be in this video and you can go and download that course. So this course gives you an idea of the philosophy that Barry Thornton used in his trading. Now, who is Barry Thornton? Essentially, when I started trading Forex, I attended a couple of courses, and one of them was the MTI course and another course, and both courses Barry Thornton was there, and we met up, and with another 2 guys, we formed quite a nice trading group, and we basically consumed everything there was about Forex trading. It was a very new thing roughly 20 years ago, and we threw a lot into our Forex trading. It was fantastic because we could share ideas and bring to attention things that as an individual you wouldn't be able to do. That period also allowed us to experiment. We basically experimented with every single indicator we could find our hands on. We back traded it, forward traded it, did all kinds of things to make sure that we understood the strengths and weaknesses of the indicator or the technique, and also the potential of the technique. And interestingly enough, we ended up trading techniques that had nothing to do with those courses that we did. The courses were mainly just an introduction to trading and Forex trading and gave us the basis, but we then in ourselves developed a whole lot of techniques that we liked because they were so efficient. So what then happened is that I left South Africa and Barry Thornton stayed behind, and he started building up his own trading activity, and how he did that was quite unusual. He had developed an edge in the market. In other words, just a technique that gives him a roughly 60% success rate, but because the stops were smaller than the targets, he actually could make a lot of money from that simple technique. So he had this edge. And what he did was he realized that he couldn't trade this 5 days a week for the 4 or 5 hours that it required. And in those days, robots weren't that popular. So what he did was he actually recruited traders to come and trade for him. And the interesting thing was he specifically found people that had no trading experience whatsoever, because he found that so many people out there had baggage. They wanted to do things their own way, and they had baggage and things like that, and he found it much easier to find somebody that's brand new, train them themselves only in the technique that he wanted them to do, and that would make them easier for them to follow the rules of that particular technique. So he had 3 to 4 people trading for him. Some were trading certain time frames, some were trading certain currencies, and it was quite a good combination that he had, and he paid them a commission on their gains, and that allowed him to basically do his own thing, but also trade the way he wanted to trade. Now, during this process, he developed an income that exceeded $1 million every single year for at least 15 years. He doesn't trade now anymore. He's basically retired from trading, but he had a solid period of 15 years where he was trading well over $1 million a year. And I won't go into the actual figures, but they over $1 million a year. So how did he manage to do that? And I was lucky enough to start out my trading with somebody like that, and we actually spent a lot of time together, and that is why he actually did some ebooks for Expert Forex about some of his techniques. And I'm going to just go through some of the points that come out why we were more successful than others, and also give you ideas on how you can succeed. Okay, so firstly, on your screen, you can see the long candle course, and you ask, why did he call it the long candle course? And when we started trading, we realized that is what all traders want to trade. They want to trade a long candle. Now, if you look at a typical chart, you can see these long candles, and here are them, and just follow my cursor, there's a long candle. That's the kind of movement you want to trade. You want a strong movement going in the direction that you anticipate, and it must go with volatility, so it must go there very quickly. So that would be a long candle, that would be a long candle, there would be combinations of long candles. Even those ones over there are long candles. There's an example of a long candle, there's an example of a couple of long candles, and there's two there and another one there, and so on. So those are the kind of moves that he was hunting, and that we were hunting, because we basically ended up trading very similar techniques, not exactly the same, but very similar techniques. And once you have mastered these techniques, it is almost like printing money, because your success rate is so high and you're using good risk return ratios. You can actually increase your lot sizing a lot faster than normal, and the techniques are relatively simple. You can actually, as he did, he taught them to pure beginners. They were rule based. As I say, the EAs weren't that popular then, and basically the traders just had to follow some fixed rules. Now I'm just going to go through some observations that we went through at the time over the last, let's say, 20 years of trading. And the one observation is, in general, traders cannot be taught to be successful. They can't be taught success. And that's a bit of a funny statement to make, but you can teach a trader how a technique works, and how the actual entries and exits and all that rules work and all that. But that doesn't mean that that trader is going to be successful. You can give that same technique. In fact, that is what he was doing. He was giving the same technique to other people, and they were failing with exactly the same technique, although he was making over $1 million. So it is the psychology of the person that determines the success of trading, not the technique. By the way, in those groups of people that he recruited, the ladies were by far the best, because they were good at sticking at rules. Men had too bigger egos. They always wanted to overrule the rules or make exceptions and that type of thing. So, but ladies say, "Oh, this is what you wanted me to do, so I'll do that," just out of interest. So, but psychology plays a huge role. Now, it's a very subtle thing. When you start out with Forex trading, the emphasis is often, I want to learn techniques, not I want to make money from Forex. It's a different approach. It's a different psychology, because what happens is the people that want to learn techniques will learn exactly that. They'll just go through their trading lives learning techniques. The ones that want to make money become money magnets, and they will only attract techniques that make them money in the long run. Not only trading techniques, but risk management techniques, money management techniques, and all kinds of other things, which I'm actually going to cover later on in the video. But you have to have a psychology where you are using trading to make money, not to learn more about or to discuss with your friends and all that kind of thing. It's to make money, and that is what Barry Thornton did. He had no interest in discussing anything with anybody else. He knew what he was doing. He taught his people how to trade, and he wasn't interested in getting involved in finding better techniques or discussing his techniques with other people. That ebook that I showed you there was an exception which was sort of partially written by myself and him, but he had no personal involvement in terms of answering questions from traders or getting involved in mentoring or anything like that. That was not his style. All right, so, and I've mentioned this briefly before, when you have an edge in the market, don't be distracted. So what happened was, in the first year or two of our Forex trading, we found edges, a number of edges in the market, which gave us the upper hand in the market. Now, what a lot of people realize, that those edges are not rocket science. They are very easy. They give you a statistical edge in the market, and all you have to do is trade as often as possible and you will make money. But the biggest downside for most traders is they have the inferiority complex that, oh, there must be something better. There must be something newer. There must be something else that will help me make money faster or better or with less risk and that type of thing. So they spend their lives looking for that, for the better technique, the safer technique, and they never actually trade the one that's going to make them the most money. So Barry Thornton found that technique. He worked out the statistics and he said, I'm going to make well over $1 million a year if I follow this the following plan. And he had a plan laid out, and his risk was not excessive to the income that he was earning. So he had this plan to make $1 million. So, but it was a simple plan, simple techniques. You've seen the chart that I showed you earlier. It's basically just the RSI, the moving averages, it's candlestick formations, and support and resistance. And those guys, all the things you can learn within a few days of getting to know everything about Forex trading. And I see people buying 10 EAs and that type of thing. It's better to take one EA and master that EA. Find out, squeeze out as much as you can from that EA than to try and half do one, half do another one, half do another one, and you'll just get nowhere. So when you have an edge, when you feel that you have an edge in the market, don't get distracted. Don't go onto forums. And that's what he immediately did. He never went onto a forum. He never got involved in discussions. He didn't try and research better techniques. He said, my gosh, I've got this technique that's printing money. I'm just going to continue doing it. And this ties up again with what I've said already, that most traders have enough information, skills in the first 3 to 6 months of trading to see them through to make them as successful traders. But because they are jumping from pillar to post, from the newest robot to the next robot and that kind of thing, or the newest technique, they are not focused enough on making money. They're more focused on learning new techniques, and that's the big trap in Forex trading. Now again, as I said there, you have to develop your own money-making style, and that's what Barry Thornton did. He spent a lot of time researching the market in the first year, found a simple technique that gave him an advantage in the market, and he based his money-making on that. Very simple, straightforward. That was his style, and he wasn't scared to train people up to trade for him. So that was his style. He had a goal of making a lot of money, and he put that into place. And he was not distracted. Now, many of these techniques we're talking about actually were not possible when we were trading. Lots of the software that we were using did not allow you to draw trend lines on indicators. You won't believe that, but in those days they didn't allow. And the trend line on indicators made a major difference to the results that you would achieve from a lot of these techniques. So we were always thinking out the box, trying to find software that meets our needs and that type of thing. So, for instance, in those first years, what we used to do is we used to use MetaTrader to analyze the charts. They had a much better profile and template setup and chart set up than most of the charts available at that time. And then we would identify the trade and enter it on an FX EM account, because that account actually provided very quick lot size calculations, stops and targets and all that type of thing. So you could just say, I want a 30 pip stop and a 60, and it would work out where the stop should be put in there. So FXM was a lot better at order processing, but very poor at charting. MetaTrader was very good at charting, but very poor at order pro. So we were thinking out of the box more and more. Now here's a big thing that you need to be aware of, but that Barry Thornton, myself, and a few other guys got involved in, that made a difference in our trading results, in our financial results that we achieved. And that is, we soon realized that brokers can be risky. They have control over the spreads, they have control over a whole lot of things, and there's risk. When your account becomes big, there's a risk of losing the whole account if the broker just goes under. Like for instance, that in fact happened with a large English brokerage, which was the top brokerage at the time, just folded when the Swiss franc move happened in the market, basically closed Alpari UK. So then we realized that, and we started investigating opening our own brokerage. Now, you'll be surprised how easy it is to do that, because MetaTrader was fairly new in those days, and they were looking for people who would use their software. So we actually got a brokerage set up from a MetaTrader. So we looked at the broker side of MetaTrader. We got price feeds, and we got wholesale liquidity provider facilities. So in fact, what we then did was we cut out the retailer in the process, and we started trading virtually with no spreads, and we were able to manage our own accounts as if we were clients for a broker, but we owned the brokerage, so the risk was incredibly reduced. There were no problems such as one would have today with identification and all those kind of things, because we were essentially the broker. Now this is what I mean by thinking outside the box, having a money magnet philosophy, that you're in the business to make money. Your main aim is to make money out of Forex trading, not to be cleverest trader out there. So when that happened, we were able to turbocharge our trading, because we were now trading with any margins that we wanted to, any spreads that we wanted to, and all of that got pushed straight to the wholesale liquidity provider. Not quite sure if this is possible today, but certainly in those days that made a huge difference, and it wasn't that expensive at all. And just be careful, a lot of scam brokers, that's how a lot of scam brokers work. They do not have any infrastructure whatsoever. They've just bought a license from MetaTrader, and that is how they scam people out of their money. And I've got some good videos on YouTube to show you how that blatantly happens. Now the next conclusion that we got to is that trading is actually maths, statistics and probabilities. So you have to be mathematically orientated to trade, but you have to move the odds in your favor all the time. And in fact, I think that was one of the techniques that Barry Thornton brought to Expert Forex, is the Watto technique, which was a trade with all the odds in your favor. Watto, trade with all the odds in your favor. And that is one of the techniques that Barry Thornton also brought to the table. So maths and statistics and probability play a huge role, and the only way that you can influence those statistics and things like that is by finding a simple strategy that gives you an edge in the market, gives you maybe a 60 to 70% success rate. It allows you to have small stops and large targets and that type of thing, and then you can trade quite comfortably without a high risk of failure. You'll see that a lot of the techniques in Expert Forex are random trading techniques. We've got the time of day hedge technique, which basically just opens a buy and a sell at the same time every day. Now, how random is that? And that produces really good results. Then the grid trend multiplier opens a buy and a sell at each grid level. That's random trading. And now we have the profit retriever, which is by far our most successful EA, that does exactly the same. It opens trades at certain levels in the market, totally on a random basis, using specific lot sizing to balance the risk. So all of that is based on random market maths, statistics, and probabilities. There's a mixture. You can have your technique can be good, or you could use a maths and statistics and probability approach, or you could use both. If you could use both, that is the best, and that is in fact what Barry Thornton did. He used both the statistical methods, and he had a high success technique. Now what that allows you to do is to plan your failures. So when you fail, you say, oh, this failure is part of the 30% that normally fails. What I'm going to do is I'm going to not get upset about it, but I am going to look at if this failure could have been avoided, and you then look at it and say, no, it couldn't have been avoided, it's just the market at that time. Or you say, oh no, in future I need to make my stops a bit bigger, or my targets a little smaller, or something like that. But it allows you to plan your failures. Now, one of the exercises that Barry Thornton has is he has this exercise where he says, okay, spin a coin. For every head you lose $1, but for every tail you gain $2. And he says, how often are you going to trade if you have that in place? And the answer is obviously you'll trade as much as possible and you spin as much as possible. But the problem with that is that you will soon get bored, because after a few hours you'll just be spinning all the time. You won't be thinking about anything. Things will get boring, get very boring. Now, that is actually the point of successful trading. Sometimes successful trading can be very, very boring. Now, so then it is good to automate standard decision making as much as possible. So you just write a robot to take care of the standard decision making. But you have to have a successful trading technique to do that. So when you buy a robot, you are buying somebody else's successful technique. And it's very important that you learn that manual technique so that you can understand how the robot works. Robots are basically just an automation of successful techniques, and you have to understand why it is profitable, and therefore you will be able to set the settings to make the robot work. Robot settings change from time to time because of market conditions changing, and you will not be able to adapt to those settings if you don't know how the robot works. So only automate standard decision making as much as possible. Now, this is the converse of it. Don't use automation on something you don't understand. So this is what 90% of robot owners do. They have a vague idea how the robot works, and they go into the market trusting the robot is on its own, given that the robot cannot ever be profitable for every currency, every time frame, and all market conditions. They just take a chance, go into the market with that particular robot, not understanding the logic behind the robot. Again, that's something that Barry Thornton never did. He had a full understanding of every technique that took place. Certain of the activities were automated later on, but certainly it was an automation of an already well-known strategy, not a automation of something that he had no idea of. Now, I hope you've enjoyed this video and got a feel of what Barry Thornton did and how he achieved the success, and why he was so successful by focusing on a simple technique that works and not being distracted by outside influences, such as answering questions about his technique or going into forums and things like that. Also, I would suggest that you go to our free forum and download the long candle course, and you'll also find some other courses there written by Barry Thornton, the Watto course I've also mentioned, and have a look at those courses. They worked tremendously well. Since then, I've got more into automation. Barry Thornton has actually scaled down his business. He's now has a successful property portfolio, got properties all over the world, and a successful share portfolio. So his interest in forex trading is no longer required, and he's achieved many of his financial and life goals. So questions that you could ask yourself is, am I focusing on learning techniques or trying my luck on robots and things like that, or am I focusing on making money? If you were focusing on making money, you would learn the techniques that the robots are based on. You would test them very thoroughly. You would create portfolios of these robots, and you would only take the very best robots and put them into your live accounts. So you would be more money driven and less luck driven. A lot of traders just rely on luck. The other thing that they rely on is knowledge. They try and build as much knowledge by going into forums and sharing their knowledge and showing how clever they are. And what you do need is money-making skills, and money-making skills are much more difficult because they're simple. You use a simple use a simple robot and you make money from it. Simple as that. Now, for instance, the profit retriever robot that has come out last year, one of the most successful robots that there is, and it's taken most probably 20 years for me to find a robot that's based on statistics, probability, and that makes that kind of money with so many robust results. And those results you can see in our linked service. Our linked service provides an opportunity for traders that aren't skilled at robot trading or even manual trading to just simply link their accounts to accounts being traded by very competent robot traders. Some of those accounts also are my own ones, but there are a lot of external traders that are also trading them. So there's another opportunity to make money. And again, I come back to this. Are you in the business to become clever, or are you in the business to make money? And you need to refine your focus, and you need to cut out activities that are preventing you from making money because they are distracting you, because you want more education or you're insecure about what you've done now. If you want to get rid of insecurity, simply test and test and test, and because of that personal experience you build up from testing, you'll start learning what works and what doesn't, and that will give you personal security or confidence in your techniques and your robots. Again, thank you very much for watching this video. I hope you've learned a few things, and from me, Alex Deploy, cheerio.